Hello everyone, and welcome to the ninth episode of Coherent Coder. In this episode, we are going to be learning about nested if else and else if ladder. So let's roll that intro. First, let's look at nested if else. So nested if else is a variation of the if else statement. So if you remember, if else statement is a control statement in which you give a condition, and when that condition is satisfied, something happens, and when that condition is not satisfied, then some other thing happens. Okay. So what nested if else does is it takes it up a notch. Okay. So what it does is it allows you to execute multiple conditions. So how it allows us to do it? So first you specify a condition in the if statement, right? When that condition is false, it goes to the else statement. But here is where the difference is. So for nested if else, what we can do is we can actually write if else statement again inside the else statement. So if you see, this part is where the difference is. So what we can do is inside the else statement, we can again write an if statement. And in that if statement, we can provide a condition. And when that condition is true, something will happen. And when that condition is false, it would go to the else statement of that if condition. I know that this may be confusing to some people, but when we actually go to the programming part, you will understand this better. So this is the syntax in front of you right now. Okay. So in the syntax, if you see, first we have an if condition. In that we are giving a condition, and then next we have else statement, and inside this else we are again giving if and else statements. And in this if statement we give some other condition. You can give the same condition or you can give a different condition, that's up to you. But that condition should exist, and that is how we will have the nested if else. So let's look at the example. For example, assume that you are giving a value of 10 to the variable a. Okay. And then you are writing this if and else statement. Okay. We are checking if the a value is 20 or not. Okay. So when the a value is not 20, it will go to the else statement. Since in our case, we are giving the value of a as 10. So the if condition will not be satisfied and it will go into the else block. And inside this else block, we have the if and else statements. Okay. For this if statement, we are giving the condition of a equal to 10. So we are checking if a's value is 10 or not. And since we have given the value of 10 to a, this condition will be satisfied and the statements return inside the if statement. That is inside the if statement with where we are checking a is equal to 10 or not, that statement will be executed and remaining statements will be ignored totally. Nested if else is just an extension of if else itself. So you do not have to be confused about this. You will understand this properly when we actually go into the coding part and we look at how we can execute these things. Okay, so let's move on. Next, we have else if ladder. Else if ladder is again a variation of if else statement. So if you look at the syntax, you will see that we have an if condition, and then we have else if, and then we have else. So in this, if you actually compare it with the if else statement, only this part is different. That means the else if part, that means the part where we have written else and if after that. So now let's look at an example to understand this. Okay. So now let's assume that you have given the value of 5 to A. Okay. And then we have written if else statements in this way. So we have written if, and then we are checking if A's value is 20 or not. Okay. And then we have written an else if statement in which we are checking A's value is 10 or not. And then we are checking else if again and checking if A's value is 5 or not. Okay. And then we have the else statement. So what you have to know about else if ladder is that since the execution of the program happens from top to bottom, the order of checking these conditions also happen from top to bottom. For example, so let's say that A's value is 5. Okay. So uh, it will first check the if statement. And in the if statement, we have given the condition of A equal to 20, which obviously is not satisfied. So it will go down and it will check the next available else if statement. So the next available else if statement is A equal to 10, which is again not satisfied. So it will go down and then it will check the next condition, that is A equal to 5. So now this condition is satisfied. So the statements under this block will get executed, and all the other statements inside the other if and else if statements will be ignored. Okay. And for example, let's say that we are giving a value of 30 to A, and then we are trying to run this program. Then what would happen is, since all the three conditions are not satisfied, that means A is not equal to 20, and then A is not equal to 10, and then A is not equal to 5. Since all these three are not getting satisfied, it will go into the else block, and whatever is there in that else block will be executed. That is how else if ladder works. So now let's move on. Now that you all know what is nested else if and else if ladder statements, now let's look at how we can use them and write a C program. Now let's get out of this presentation and go to dev C++. So now let's go ahead and create a new source file, and we are going to import stdio.h header file. Then I'm going to declare the void main function. So now let's go ahead and save the file. Okay, so now let's go ahead and save the file. Okay, so now let's go ahead and declare two variables. So I'm going to declare a variable a and assign it a value of 30. Then I'm going to declare a variable b and assign it a value of 5. Okay, so now let's first look at how we are going to write a nested if else statement. Okay, so if you remember, to write a nested if else statement, first we have to write an if else statement. So I'm going to write if, and in the condition, I'm going to give a equal to 10, and then I'm going to open braces, and in this, I'm going to print a value is 10. Then I'm going to write an else statement. In this else statement, now I'm going to write an if else statement with which we are going to get our nested if else. So here I'm going to give the condition of a equal to 20, and then I'm going to print a value is 20. Now I'm going to write an else statement here, and in this I'm going to print a value is unknown. So before we compile and run this program, let's understand what is going to happen. Okay. So when I run this program, what will happen is it will first come to this if statement and it will try to evaluate this condition. So a value is 30. So 30 equal to 10 is false, right? 30 is not equal to 10. So it will skip this part. Next, it will go into the else block. Okay, in this else block, it will again check for this if condition. In this if condition, we are checking if a is equal to 20 or not. So that means we are checking if 30 is equal to 20, which is not the case. So it will return a false again. So since this is also false, it will go into the else block and it will print a values unknown. So this is what should happen. So let's see what is going to happen when we compile and run the program. So you see that we are getting a value is unknown, which is what we were expecting. This is how a nested if else statement works. Okay, so now let's close this and move on to our next part, that is else if ladder. Okay, so if you remember, for else if ladder, first we need to again have a if and else statement. So I'm going to write if, and then for the condition I'm going to give b equal to 10. Okay, and then I'm going to open flower brackets, and inside this I'm going to print b value is 10. Okay, and here I'm going to write an else statement. Here I'm going to write printf, and I'm going to print p value is unknown. So if you remember the syntax of else if ladder, then you will know that after the if statement, we give else if. We write else if here. So basically, else if is an intermediate step between if and the else block. Okay. So in else if, I'm going to give condition of b equal to 20. And then I'm going to open flower brackets here, and then I'm going to print b value is 20. And after this, I'm going to write another else if condition, and here I'm going to give p equal to 5, and here I'm going to print b value is 5. Okay, so now let's understand what is going to happen when we compile and run the program. Okay, so we know that the value of b is 5. So after this nested else if statement completes its execution, it will come to the else if ladder part. And here it will first go to the if statement because this is the topmost code. Here it will try to evaluate this condition. So for us, b value is 5 and the value that we are comparing it to is 10. So this does not match. So the condition is false and hence it will not go inside this condition. So next it will come to the else if block. So the first else if condition is b equal to 20. That means it is trying to check if 5 is equal to 20 or not, which is false. So it will skip this block of code. Next, it will come to this condition. Here you can see that we are checking if b is equal to 5 or not. Since b value is 5, this condition will evaluate to true. So it will come inside this block and it will execute this line of code. So on the screen, we should be able to see b value is 5. Okay, so before we compile and run this program, let's add /n here. Okay, so now I'm going to compile the code. Looks like we forgot a semicolon, so I'm going to add it. Okay, then I'm going to compile the code and run the application. So you can see that on the screen, we are getting b values 5, which is the expected output. So if you want to try, you can actually go here and you can change the value of b to, let's say, 10 and see what happens. So now you can go ahead and compile code and run it again. And now you see that b value is 10 is printed on the screen. Similarly, if you change b value to 20, this condition will be true. So it should display b value is 20. So I'm going to compile the code and run it again. So you can see b value is 20 again. So this is how else if ladder works. So now let's move on back to the presentation. You were able to understand everything that I taught in this video. If you have any doubts, then please post it in the comments and I will reply to you. Thank you and happy coding.